talking about how deployment reshapes childhood and family bonds. We often talk about how strong military families are and how strong they are for going off and protecting our country through service and resilience. But we don't look at the children who are left behind in these empty and broken homes. Walter Forrest and his colleagues from the University of Queensland say children of deployed men were more likely to attempt suicide. In looking at this graph from the National Indigenous Television, we can see that the blue line is an average civilian family, and the orange line is an Army family. Going up per 100,000 and across 5 years, we can see that the Army family has a huge spike, and almost doubling every time of the amount of attempts at suicide. And while the civilian families stay at an average steady pace. And we can see in 2008, during the Afghanistan war, there's a huge spike in suicide attempts. And this is being the last straw of people trying to end their lives because they cannot take mental depression, anxiety anymore. So this is their last straw of attempting suicide. So I just had to ask myself, how does this loss of family history due to employment impact children's mental health and family bonds? And through my research, I have found that the loss of family history from parental figures deployed in war can alter in their children, can increase stress-related disorders, alter family dynamics, and contribute to intergenerational trauma. So looking at a psychological standpoint, children are often very left alone, and they feel like they built a wall around themselves, being super disconnected from other people around them because they can't connect with the community, other family, other friends, because they are in their own world of one of their parents, if not both parents, being gone at war 100,000 miles away from them. Dr. Rachel Yehuda from the Eaton School of Medicine says offspring effects may be medicated, in part epigenetic changes in parental germ cells. In simpler terms, epigenetics is the change in genetics. And this means being genetically modified, it's passing on through generations. Your genetics are passed from your parent to your offspring. And through the stress of a parent experiencing something traumatic or very harmful, it is then passed on to their children and then affecting them and then affecting their children. And it's not just stress, it's true changes like post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, attention deficit disorder, these things that impact them for the rest of their lives in their everyday life. And then relationships are a huge part of deployment. Many people feel lost and alone because they have a piece of their life missing from them. They have no contact, they feel alone at home, and this doesn't only mean fear and sadness. This is like a confusion within their daily routine because they don't know what role to take on and how the other parent that is there actively in their life, they don't know how to fill that hole and fill that gap. Dr. Eric Flake of the University of Los Angeles Family and Resilience Center says deployment and its dangers can threaten children's sense of security in their primary giving relationship. This means that their parent can't make up for the loss that is there. They don't know how to refill those gaps, and that can truly impact the child of building relationships future on and later on in their lives. Also, from my mother's house, a parent is gone, creating a broken home, not being able to be filled. Intergenerationally, we can see that this affects the whole family. Once one parent or grandparent goes off to war, we can see that their mental disorders are later on passed on to their children and then their children again. Walter Forrest again says post-traumatic stress disorder affects children's development because of its long-term effects in parental behavior. Kids see how their parents act and they want to be like them. They see this strong guardian role, but then they don't realize that these characteristics that they may have may be signs of anxiety or depression or aggression, and then they pick up these genetics and they use that in their everyday life, and then they become more like these people. Arguably, many children demonstrate remarkable resilience when provided with the right resources. And many children are seen as very adaptable, and they grow very well. And we can see from Dr. Patricia Lester, again, I used this quote because it says with the right resources. That is the key word here. Many kids and many parents aren't able to ask and reach for help. They feel kind of locked down and scared and embarrassed to ask for the right help when they need it, and that is why it does not work for everyone, and not everyone will ask for resources to help themselves. And when I talk about resources, I mean like counseling or therapy or group sessions or going on a walk and talking about people, because there's a stigma around being in a military family and you have to be super strong and resilient, and this kind of attacks the children and they get mental disorders because they feel so alone. And that is why we need to break the trauma cycle. So my solution was to create legacy projects like storytelling and art within trauma-informed therapy to preserve family bond and break the trauma cycle. I mean this by creating creative outlets so they don't only have to talk if they may be embarrassed, they can express themselves in art in a different way. Of course, there's always limitations to things, and once a family member is gone 100,000 miles away, legacy projects can never replace that parent. And also, not all children will respond to creative outlets. They might be able to express themselves in a different way, and that's totally fine. You just have to be able to adapt to that and find that children or child might be able to adapt in that way. And then, of course, there's limited to trained professionals. That's why we need to advocate for this to be broadened and brought to new places, because it has seemed to help a lot. And then, of course, if it's done well, it can always strengthen emotional expression, promote resilience, and reduce long-term issues, and promote healthy healing.
Research question evolve as you moved through the research process, and did it go in any different direction than you originally planned?
Yeah, so I started kind of more broad, just about how storytelling affects mental health in their children, of their stories and how they kind of grew up and how that affects their child. And then I looked more and I saw how my mom and my mom's sisters kind of developed, because my grandpa was a Vietnam veteran, and that she was kind of telling me about the mental burden that she was brought onto when growing up and her dad being deployed. So then that's kind of when I focused on more wartime active military duty effects.
If you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
If I had more time, I would like to use more personal accounts, because I think that can be super important within military and army kind of things. I think it can tell really true stories and kind of make you feel a certain way that I don't think I really have necessarily in my research from super scholarly articles. I think they lost the sense of emotion there.
Thanks.